You probably remember these cards because you had some when you were a kid. These were free promo cards given out either at the cinema or with the purchase of a VHS. For those of you too young, a VHS is how we streamed movies in the 90s. This is every Wizards of the Coast movie promo explained. So going in chronological order, we have Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. Now here in North America, it was just called Pokemon the first movie, but a lot of people call it Mewtwo Strikes Back because that's the Japanese name and it's just way cooler. Mewtwo Strikes Back came to theaters in November 1999, and if you could convince your mom to take you, you would get a free promo card with the purchase of a movie ticket. So all of the promotional cards back in the early days of Pokemon when Wizards of the Coast was in charge were called Black Star promos, and each of them had a number, like its own little set. There are a few exceptions to this, and we will actually see one later in this video. The 4 Black Star promo cards available for this movie are numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's Electabuzz, Mewtwo, Pikachu, and Dragonite. All 4 of these have a gold stamp within the illustration window. The stamp says Kids WB presents Pokemon the first movie. Now before we move on, we have to talk about these stamps. And I will warn you, we are about to go down a bit of a rabbit hole. There are multiple variants of these cards because of the stamps. Some of the stamps are inverted and some are missing altogether. And so the variants that are missing the stamp are a little more common. I see these pop up every now and then. And in addition to this, there are some without the stamp, but they still have a bit of an impression left behind from the die. Now these do pop up for sale every now and then, and they tend to float around the mid 4-figure range or a little bit less than that, but it's really hard to say. With cards this rare, prices really fluctuate greatly. So the real grail here are the inverted stamps. And like it sounds, the stamp was just inverted and stamped on the wrong side of the card. Basically, the sheet was put through backwards at the factory. And now it's rumored that only one sheet of these inverted stamps ever left the factory. So they are extremely rare. That being said, the Dragonite seems to be the most common for some reason. To have a complete set, all 4 inverted stamps would be seriously cool. Now there is one more stamp promo card that I haven't talked about yet. Upon the updated VHS release of Mewtwo Strikes Back in Japan, you could get an English Mewtwo promo. Yeah, so it's not very common to get an English promo in Japan, but this is one of those rare instances. This card is identical to the WB stamped Mewtwo that we got. The only difference is the card stock. Japanese Pokemon cards feel and look different to the keen eye because they use different materials over there. So this Mewtwo card, it's a little bit thinner and it has a slightly different texture to its surface, but otherwise it is identical to our Mewtwo. But we're not done yet. If you purchased the VHS for this, you got another promo. The VHS for the film was released in March 2000. This is, of course, Black Star promo number 14, Mewtwo. Luckily, this card doesn't have any stamp on it, and it's not even a holofoil. It's just a regular old Pokemon card. And you can grab these online for just a few bucks. And this card is actually the same as the Mewtwo promo with the stamp on it, but it's being reprinted with a new illustration by Benimaru Ito instead of Ken Sugimori, making this the first English reprint with alternate artwork. Is this the first alternate art card? I don't think so. Okay, so we actually have one more promo, and this came with the soundtrack CD or cassette tape for Pokemon the first movie. If you saw the movie, you obviously had to buy the soundtrack too. This was released in November 1999, but you had to actually mail in proof of purchase in order to receive the Jigglypuff promo, Black Star promo number 7. However, when the soundtrack was later released in the UK, the Jigglypuff was just included with it. You didn't have to mail anything in. So if you're super passionate about these promos and you want a complete set, it would look something like this. 4 regular stamped cards, 4 missing stamp cards, 4 inverted stamp cards, 1 Japanese exclusive English stamped Mewtwo, 1 Mewtwo, and 1 Jigglypuff. So the next movie to come out was Pokemon 2000. Now sometimes people call this the power of 1. That's the Japanese name. Here in North America, it was released as Pokémon The Movie 2000. And similar to the first movie, there were 4 promos available if you bought the ticket, and then there was 1 more promo if you bought the VHS. The 4 promo cards available at the cinema were Ancient Mew and the 3 legendary birds, Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos. And get ready because there are multiple variants of each of these. So the Ancient Mew was actually only available for the first week of the movie's release. So you had about 7 days, give or take, and then the cinema would switch over to the birds, Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos, where you would receive 1 at random. And luckily for us, there is only 1 version of this Ancient Mew. And this was the exception that I mentioned earlier. Ancient Mew doesn't have a Black Star promo symbol or number. It's what we call an unnumbered promo. And okay, there are 6 different versions of Ancient Mew. I made a video on that if you want to learn about all 6 variants. But for the international release, the one that came with Pokémon 2000, there's only 1 version. Now let's look at these legendary birds. These cards have beautiful artwork, but unfortunately the wrong artist was credited. If you have these cards, they probably credit Toshineo Aoki, which is incorrect. It was later corrected to the correct artist, Naoya Kimura, but this was corrected close to the end of the promotion and as a result is much more rare. This mistake likely came from Toshineo Aoki illustrating these 3 cards, which were exclusive to Japan just a year before the Pokémon 2000 came to theaters here in North America. Now when the film actually came to home release, which is VHS and DVD in November 2000, the promo card was none other than my guy Pikachu, Black Star promo number 27. This card has various Japanese variants and 1 English variant that was included in the 2000 Pikachu World Collection, where it was printed exclusively in Italian and features a gold Pikachu tail stamp. Some people call this the Bumblebee Pikachu, but of course none of this is related to the film's release. So if you want to collect all of the promo cards for the second movie, it would look something like this. 1 Ancient Mew, 3 birds with Toshineo Aoki credited, 3 birds with Naoya Kimura credited, and 1 Bumblebee Pikachu. Okay, moving on to the third movie, Pokémon 3, The Movie. This was first released in theaters in North America in April 2001. And with the purchase of a ticket, you would receive this amazing reverse holo Entei card. Black Star promo number 34. This also happens to be the very first reverse holo ever released in English. And luckily for us, there is only 1 variant. And my favorite thing about this card is how cheap it is. You can pick one up online for just a few dollars. Now in August 2001, with the VHS and DVD release of Pokémon 3, The Movie, you would of course get a promo, and this would be Black Star promo number 38, Unknown J. Why J? It's because we were missing J and also R from the Neo series of expansions, so we got J but R was left behind. We didn't get an English version of Unknown R until EX Unseen Forces in 2005. So to wrap up the third movie, we have the most simple set here, Entei and Unknown. The fourth and final Pokemon movie from the Wizards of the Coast era is called Pokemon Forever, and it heavily features the Pokemon Celebi and Suicune. The theatrical release was in October 2002, and with the purchase of a ticket, you would get this sweet Celebi card. This is Black Star promo number 50, and it also happens to be the very first English card debuting the new e-reader card design. It is a non-holofoil, but it does have the Pokemon Forever logo inside of the illustration window. But this card did in fact have an error. The illustrator's name was misspelled. The artwork is by Hajime Kusajima, but we can see that Hajime Kusajim was printed on the card. They simply forgot the A at the end of Kusajima. Now things get rather interesting here. Wizards of the Coast never corrected this error, but Nintendo did a few years later in 2005, and we'll come back to this in just a moment. For the VHS and DVD release in March 2003, the promo card was Suicune, Black Star promo number 53, and this was the last the final Black Star promo ever released by Wizards of the Coast. Oh, and it's also a reprint from the Aquapolis expansion, but this time with new artwork. Now, even though this card did not have any errors, it was still reprinted by Nintendo in 2005. If we have a look at the Celebi and Suicune reprints, we can see that they are now Cosmos foils. They dropped the Pokemon Forever logo and have actually been moved onto the EX card design. They came in certain products made for retail and were not at all associated with the film. So for the fourth movie, we have two promo cards, Celebi and Suicune. They do have variants, but they don't have the Pokemon Forever logo on them, so personally, I wouldn't count them as movie promos. But hey, it's totally up to you if you want to do that. So let's quickly recap all of the Wizards of the Coast era movie promos. For the first movie, we have 6 cards with a handful of variants due to the displacement or overall absence of the stamp. For the second movie, we have 5 cards with an additional 3 variants due to the miscredited illustrator. For the third movie, we have 2 cards and no variants. And for the fourth movie, we have 2 cards with variants, but the movie logo has been removed, so I don't really count them. Thank you for watching.